If you're considering buying or selling a home this year, but you're unsure about where the real estate market is heading, or if now is even a good time, then you're in the right place. Hi, this is Andrew with the Andrew Smith team, eXp Realty here in Frisco, Texas. And in this market report, I'm going to do a dive behind the headlines. I'm going to share with you what I'm actually seeing in the marketplace and give you the information that you need to make the best decision for you and your family. As always, if you have any questions or a specific situation that you'd like to talk through in more detail, then I invite you to book a call. A link to my calendar is in the description below, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Now, without further ado, let's get into this month's market update. In this month's market update, I'm going to start by giving you a general overview of what's going on nationally in the real estate market, a way to lay the groundwork, so to speak. From there, I'm going to be providing you more information specific to the local Frisco market here. But even if Frisco isn't the market that you are specifically interested in, I invite you to stick around because I'm going to share with you exactly how to get the same information for the city or zip code in the country that is most important to you. And I'll also tell you what trends you should actually be following. Now, I think Bankrate says it best here: buy now or wait. That's the question prospective homeowners have been struggling to answer in today's housing market. Home prices have been skyrocketing recently, and the Federal Reserve's work to tame inflation sent mortgage rates soaring. The combination has led many would-be buyers to pick the wait side of the equation. Now, I think an important thing to point out here is, although the quote from Bankrate is referring to home buyers, we have to understand that many of the potential home buyers in the market today are also sellers. So this applies to home sellers as well. But it appears as though that may be changing as more sellers are returning to the market. Now, Mike Simonson, CEO and founder of Altos Research, said after 2 years of higher mortgage rates, sellers are slowly coming back into the market. We'll continue to have gradually more sellers. And I have to say that we are certainly starting to see evidence of this across the country as inventory, which simply refers to the number of homes for sale, continues to improve. Here's a graph from Realtor.com that shows the number of homes for sale this year continues to outpace what we've seen the past couple of years. Now, 2024 on this graph is shown as the dark green line. And as you can see, it's well ahead of what we saw in 2021, 2022, or 2023. Now, considering that the inventory is up, as I just showed you, you might be asking yourself, well, if inventory is improving and considering mortgage rates are still so high, why are home prices been going up? I mean, the headlines have been inundated with price increases, price increases, price increase, but it doesn't necessarily add up, does it? It doesn't necessarily make sense. But as Lawrence Yoon from the National Association of Realtors points out, astonishingly, greater than 90% of the country's metro areas experience home price growth despite facing the highest mortgage rates in 2 decades. In the current market, rising prices are the direct result of insufficient housing supply not meeting the full demand. So there you have it, really, in a nutshell. Even though inventory is rising, there's still not enough homes for sale relative to demand to cause pricing to fall. Now, recent studies have shown that the market still needs somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million homes to get back to some form of balance. Now, let's look at another chart here. This is that same chart from Realtor.com, but it goes ahead and adds in 2017, 18, 19, and 20 to kind of provide a little bit of perspective. So there's that green line right there in the middle. that we were talking about with regards to the inventory level so far in 24. But you can see compared to the previous years, the pre-pandemic years that we'll call them, we're still lagging quite a way behind. And right there on the center of the graph, that orange line that we're getting closer to crossing over, that's 2020. And where you see that big dive in inventory taking place is right when the COVID lockdowns went into effect. And I bring this up because inventory really is the key, because until we see enough inventory to satisfy the level of demand that has remained in the market, and for more information on that and why we haven't seen that, demand fall as much as you may have thought it would, check out this video up here that I did recently. Now, even though we're talking about continued rising home prices, I want to point out that we're not talking double-digit price growth. We're not talking the type of price growth that we saw just a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, it's coming back to more normal ranges. We're talking about price appreciation somewhere between 3 and 5%, which is right in line with historical averages. Now, depending upon the market in which you live in, we're already starting to see the impact of rising inventory, especially in markets where there's a lot of new construction activity. So Frisco, for instance, we have a lot of new construction here. Now, the resale market is up as far as number of homes for sale, 62% year over year. But the new construction inventory is up 107% year over year. Now, with that in mind, the new 2024 home price forecasts have just been released. And although many of the forecasters have toned their forecasts down, mainly due to mortgage rates staying higher for much longer than was anticipated, they are all still expecting prices to climb this year. So here on this graph, as you can see, we range from a high or a maximum growth they're forecasting, so to speak, of 4.8% price appreciation, all to a low of 0.5%. So that's basically Freddie Mac saying they don't expect any price growth. That's relatively flat. Not exactly sure that's what we're going to see, but that's what they're calling for. So now I'm going to turn my attention to the Frisco market. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if you are interested in a different city or zip code, I'm going to show you exactly how to find that information out. So stay with me, because the data points that I'm going to share with you are the ones that you're going to want to pay attention to in your particular market. All right, so what we're looking at right here is from my weekly Frisco market report. And as mentioned, if Frisco is not the area that you're interested in, that's okay. Right here at the top of the report, you can put in any city or zip code in the entire country. Go ahead and hit enter, and you'll be taken to the exact same information for that particular city. There's a couple of things to point out here. If you just want a quick idea of what the market's doing, just go ahead and take a look at this. This is known as the Market Action Index. It's a speedometer of activity, if you like. The further to the right, the further closer to 100 that speedometer, that needle is, the hotter the market is. Right now, we're sitting at a 45, almost exactly what this market was last month, which was 46, which kind of tells you things are pretty stable. They're not really favoring one or the other. There's no great changes taking place overall. Directly to the right of that, you've got all of the relevant stats for the market in this simple to look at area here. And the ones that we're going to pay closest attention to are the median list price. We're looking at the percentage of homes with a price decrease, and we're going to be looking at inventory. And I point that out because if you are in a market where you see inventory rising, the number of price decreases increasing, and then you also see the median list price starting to fall, that's an indication of softening conditions within that local market. If you see inventory flattening out, or you see inventory not really increasing, price decreases are stable, and you don't see the median list price coming down, then that's an indication that you're not going to see much change in that market in the near future. Now, I'm going to look at this in just a little bit more detail down here. So what we're looking at is inventory. I've zoomed in here to go back to January 2020, which is, again, when the COVID years started to hit. We saw inventory fall off rapidly, starting right in here. And you can see inventory is picking up. This is the 7-day and the 90-day average. It is picking up, but it is not dramatic compared to where we were in the pre-COVID years. Reset that zoom just for a second. And then we're going to look here at the median list price. And I'm going to zoom in once again, just to this. Now, it's very, very common for pricing to increase as you start the new year. It's when activity starts to pick up overall. Now you can see here where the median list price in Frisco was back in February. Yes, it went down, it went up, it went down, but there's not a great deal of change. There's a lot of volatility week to week in these numbers, completely normal. Not as much so when you look at the 90-day rolling average, but as you can see, it was very, very flat throughout almost all of the spring, which is a bit unusual because that spring, the busiest time of the year for real estate, is usually when you start to see the markets increase. And it actually dropped off a little bit, not tremendously, but we've started to see price increases happen once again. As a matter of fact, I've even seen new home construction where some of the homes that are done, which are usually the ones that you see price decreases on, over the last couple of weeks, I've actually noticed a few price increases on those. If I roll back up here just for a second, the amount of price decreases happening within the marketplace overall has been relatively steady and is actually started to turn. That has flattened out. We aren't seeing exactly what we were seeing previously. Now, I'm hoping that helped a little bit, kind of give you a gauge on what exactly is going on. Bottom line to all of this is, despite the headlines, despite what you may be reading, the market is actually, it is shifting, but I would call it normalizing. It's not turning down by any means. There's still a lot of activity. And that remains the same. I spoke to, team members of mine in Minnesota this morning. They were reporting the exact same thing. I'm hearing the same, even in parts of Florida that's being talked about, a market that's turning. They were still reporting very strong conditions, as were others in California and Arizona as well. I hope that you found this information useful. And I want to remind you that if you do have any questions or a specific situation that you'd like to discuss further, let's go ahead and schedule a call. My calendar link is in the description below. Also, if you currently own a home and want to get an idea of what that home may be worth, see how much equity you've gained in that home over the past couple of years, and just stay in touch with what's going on in your own market. Also in the description below, I've got a link to my home seller report, so feel free to check that out. Now, I thank you for spending this time watching with me and invite you to stick around, as I know you're going to enjoy one of these videos coming up next.